Today on Superheroes of Science, we are starting a special edition, the Classroom Edition, where we are speaking with teachers about what the different online things they're doing for remote instruction. So today we're happy to welcome Amy Smith, kindergarten teacher at Blue Ridge Primary School. So welcome, Amy.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
So there's been a big, kind of a big challenge for our corporation in general. We're definitely not one-to-one with technology.
Oh, okay.
So our distance learning looks a lot different from everybody else's in the sense that we do a lot of packet work and in like an hour to get everything ready for the one of the weeks. And then we did have about 3 hours to get ready for the rest of the school year. So it was a little bit challenging to get all of that. So I noticed that there were some key components of my daily instruction that was missing. So guided reading being one of them. So what I decided to do, something else is I tend to be the science nerd in our team. So yeah. So anyhow, I like to incorporate science in as many kinds of opportunities that I can with my students. So one thing that I decided to do was, since they were missing out on guided reading, plus they were missing out on a lot of the hands-on science that we were going to be doing in the spring with plants, with animals that hatch from eggs. We always hatch chicks, and we also do butterflies, and sometimes we do ladybugs.
Yeah.
Composting and those kinds of topics like that. We do have a class garden, so getting out into the class garden and seeing all that stuff in action. So all of that was missing. And I wanted to kind of bridge that gap between what we were missing hands-on wise in guided reading and what I would be doing in the classroom and what I could provide my students, at this point of the game, which was all brand new for all of us.
Right.
I'm definitely not tech savvy. This has all been a new learning curve for me as well, in the sense that I did what I had to do on the computer at school, and then other than that, that was just not my wheelhouse. I asked
in your
somebody
defense,
else.
your school isn't. It's a high need school.
Yes, correct.
And so the resources for technology are really limited in your daily use normally, right?
Right. Yeah, we have to share we have to sign up for a time for the computer lab. We only have 4 iPads in the classroom on a daily basis. So rotating through the things that need to be done on those technology pieces was really tricky because if you didn't do it during stations or playtime or developmental centers, whatever, then you didn't get it done, so because there weren't enough technology pieces for everyone. We also shared the Chrome cart. So but then the challenge of that is the person before you forgot to plug it in or getting the kids familiar with how to properly care for a Chromebook is also kind of a challenge. Those are the kinds of struggles that we were facing, even in the classroom when it comes to technology. So I didn't really have a lot of need to do it. So I didn't really look for ways to expand those learning opportunities for my kids.
And being kindergarten, those are things you wouldn't do at the beginning of the year anyway. Those are kind of end of the year things, I would assume.
For our population, I think so. I think it was more, you might call me old school, but I kind of belong to the philosophy that kids need face-to-face interaction. They need social skills. They need to navigate through some tricky things socially before they need to be responsible for any kinds of technology types of learning.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So I also have a high population of ELL students. So I really felt like my focus needed to be on the one-to-one, like face-to-face kinds of things, so
Yes.
technology kind of took a back seat. It was more of a supplement. It wasn't necessarily the focus of what we were doing in the classroom.
Yeah.
With all this being thrown at you hard and fast, what are some things so far that you've found that you've been able to incorporate? Someone who doesn't use a lot of technology normally, right?
Right.
And so what are some things that you're having seen some success with, things that you've not been able to do before that's helping you in your classroom?
One of the biggest things, like I mentioned at the beginning, the kids were missing out on guided reading. They were missing out on the hands-on science that we were going to be doing in the classroom. So I kind of morphed those two things together. And I started writing my own guided reading books for the kids. I used the Google Slides as my platform to get started. And then I tried to incorporate the sight words that they were going to be missing out.
Oh, yeah.
So I was able to individualize that to my class the best that I could. A lot of the resources I saw online I wasn't happy with, and whether it was the science content behind the materials that were presented, or if it was more fluff versus content, I didn't really, I wasn't really happy with what I saw, or the maybe the vocabulary was a little bit not where I wanted it to go for my class. So I went ahead and started writing my own guided reading books for my class, and I tried to make them at a level that was a little bit of a reach for some of them, so that I could meet as many guided reading levels as I could, teaching the same content but with some scaffolds in place.
Nice.
That's where Screencast-o-matic, I think that's what it's called. There's a couple different ones. Screencast-o-matic. It came in handy because I was able to prepare the book in Google Slides, but then use Screencast-o-matic to voice over the book to the extra scaffold for the kids who were maybe not ready to read at that guided reading level that I had prepared the book at. So the kids could read it with me reading it for them, and they had to follow along with their finger, or they could read it on their own. So they had a choice on that.
So for other people who hadn't used a screen recorder type thing before, the Cast-o-matic's one I think you were using,
yes,
that you mentioned. Now, so it was a download, and then so how hard was that to learn how to use? It was a free download.
Right.
And so what did you have to do? You made the Google slide, so each slide was like a picture in the book.
Right.
That you asked for, like the unit you want to teach.
Right.
And then what'd you do? How'd that work?
Well, the Screencast-o-matic was very easy to use. So it was very easy to learn how to do the voiceovers, because they walk you through all of the steps on the site. So I was able to broadcast the book on your screen, on your computer screen, and then you have control over recording. And so you just hit the record button, and then you tap your way through the slides, presentation, and then you add the voiceover however you wanted. And so at that point, I just read the book to the kids. I did a mini introduction at the very beginning that told them what the title of the book was, kind of gave them a question to think about while they read it. We moved on to a sight word review. So the book I'm thinking of, the most recent book that I wrote was all about seeds, different kinds of seeds. So, we were working on a all pattern for our book. So some seeds do this, all seeds are this way, or all seeds do that. So the focus words for that book would be some and all. So I kind of voiced through, like, here's the word some, S-O-M-E, some, find the word some, kind of like
right.
And readers when we were little, with the little record player and the little beep, you turn the pages, you know, that kind
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
without the beep, didn't do that part.
Okay.
Then because I was in charge of turning the page, so they could just watch and follow, and I just reminded them to point all of those things that I would have done during a guided reading lesson. Don't forget to use your finger to help you one-to-one match the words, and
Mhm.
you know, look at the picture as we go, and those kinds of things.
So how were you able to deliver once you had the book recorded,
Yes.
since your students don't have devices or they're not one-to-one, how are you delivering that for them to use?
Okay, so we did an inventory at the very beginning of this distance learning kind of environment that we're going through right now, and we talked to our parents to see if they had access to any kind of device. So we can't offer purely e-learning materials because some kids have an iPad, some kids use their mom's phone, some kids have access to Wi-Fi all the time. Some of them have to be in the parking lot at the school to do it. So it was something that I could provide to everyone. However, it wasn't necessarily a requirement. You see that?
Okay.
Yeah. So all of the kids have access to it, and really 99.9% of my students have access to a phone. So they were able to view the book on a phone. iPads, of course, or a computer would be better, you know, but they were able to access it that way. So I just saved it and then prepared a secure YouTube channel where I keep all of my books are linked on there. And the only way that the kids can see it or anybody can see it is if I provide them the link to the book.
Okay.
It's unlisted, so they're not publicly viewable, but you
Correct.
have to get a link so just your kids can find them.
Yes.
So it works.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, and then, like you said, if everyone has access to a phone and then they're able to get onto YouTube.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
And so it's kind of nice from a socio-emotional learning kind of point of view, is that I'm still kind of, another reason why I wanted to do the voiceover is they needed to hear my voice, you know, so I had a lot of parents saying, oh, you know, my student misses you so much, and they're really they're kind of sad, or they're mopey, and they, you know, I what to do to kind of help them through this transition. So that was a big motivation for me to say, okay, I can do this. Like I got to do this extra step for my students so that we can still keep that connection as well. So they don't necessarily see me, but they can at least hear it, you know.
Hear your voice.
Yeah.
That's so important. And I just love everything about that. That first of all, I love that you're including the science with that, and that they're able to hear you, so it's personalized, and they're used to how you would go through, like you were saying with them. They know kind of the structure and how you would normally do it. So I'm sure in their minds they're thinking, oh yeah, this is what I would do, and this is my teacher, and so that's awesome.
So there's a couple of things that I'm working on right now in a very similar aspect. We're writing another book all about animals that hatch from eggs, because we would have been hatching chicks right now. And then it just so happened that one of the parents of one of my students purchased a butterfly habitat for him with others. So through Class Dojo, she's been sharing photos of the caterpillars with me, and I can share them with the entire class, so they're kind of getting that experience. It's not hands-on, but they're still kind of getting that experience. So that sparked me to think, oh, I can, you know, I need to push this forward and keep going, you know, because there's a lot of interest in it. And right now I'm collaborating with the art teacher. She's doing some sketches for the book. Last used photos that I could find off of Google. I just found photos that were available to use for the books to kind of meet my needs. But it's kind of nice because now I'm collaborating with another teacher and getting her also excited about the opportunities that these little books have for our students that we share. So
that's great.
And then along the same lines, from a literacy point of view, the kids are missing out on a lot of chances to practice, like tapping out words or listening for all of the sounds in a word, especially C words. And as I mentioned before, many of my students come from Spanish-speaking homes. So I'm going to make another slideshow that I'm going to end up voicing over that will have opportunities for them to practice writing CVC words with me pronouncing the words for them. Because a lot of times, even with pictures of things, the parents they know the word in Spanish, but they don't know what it is in English. So being able to bridge that gap and helping those kids practice those skills with, in an authentic way is in a kind of format is kind of what I'm going to be working on next. So that's something else that's on the horizon. That's going to be
Right.
But I like that. I'm excited that you're collaborating with like the art teacher from your school on that. So I think that'll make it even more pertinent and important to your students, knowing that, oh, my teacher and my art teacher, both of them, they made this book for me.
Right.
Yeah.
See. I think that's going to make it even more meaningful, and they're going to be even more excited about it.
Yeah. And she actually joined our Zoom meeting last week. So they were here, too. So I'm trying to pull in those familiar faces to get them to know that we're still here. They just can't see us every day or touch us like they would be able to normally, but we're still here,
I think that social connection that you've done a really good job with, though. I know it's like your mother volunteers in your classroom a lot normally. And so you even had her on your classroom Zoom meeting coming so they're not only getting to see their teacher, they're getting to see those friendly faces that they're used to. And so I think that really kind of helps set them at ease and makes them feel better and undoubtedly more excited about doing some of those assignments that instead of playing the video games or whatever.
Right. Well, that was another push for me was I felt like we worked really hard, even though we only had 3 hours to do it in, but we worked really, really hard as a team to get all the academic pieces in place for them so that they would, most of what they needed, if they do the work, most of what they needed to be successful at the beginning of first grade. There's going to be some summer slide. There's going to be a lot of things that need kind of fine-tuned. We all kind of know that. I think everybody knows that at this point.
Yeah.
But I felt like academically we were set. So to provide more intense academic things for my parents to do with their kids, I didn't feel like that was where my focus needed to be during this e-learning time. I kind of felt like it needed to be more of the social emotional learning, the connections, continuing some of the things we've done with our conscious discipline, which is our behavior management kind of system that we're doing in the classroom. That kind of thing. I wanted them to still have that connection between school and home. So just because school looks different for me here too, like when I'm Zooming with them, it's not from my desk, it's from the couch, but I needed them to be able to see that those things are still the same. Those things are not going anywhere.
Right.
I like that you've created a community in your classroom, and you can hear that in the Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
The kids are excited when the other kids that they know are in it too. Yeah. And so it's like it's really funny hearing these little teeny voices cheer on the other kid to hear it and stuff. So
or they get kind of upset when somebody doesn't show up. Like, where's so and so? Like they want to well, I don't know. His mom didn't give him the phone today or whatever. I don't see so and so. But so that's kind of where my focus has been. And then with the games, like with the CVC word game that I'm working on, and then in books, yes, there's academic content to that, but it's kind of game based or more kind of a fun enrichment kind of thing that that they're able to do, and it's not more pressure added onto the parents.
Right.
So they're struggling the way it is right now.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you taking time sharing. I know being in front of a bunch of kindergarten kids don't faze you, but sometimes being in front of cameras and stuff makes people nervous. And we appreciate you taking time to share what you're doing in the classroom, and we're very impressed with that. So
thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
An outstanding
on
review.
iTunes or your preferred podcast player.
Tweet us your science questions.
At Purdue SOS.
Until next time, be super, and remember,
you are someone's hero.
boiler up,
hammer down.